yesterday an Instagram post was floating around, and it happens to be Dontayvion Wicks' one of his personal coaches. I was looking up this guy here on Instagram, Les7 Spellman, and he's a speed coach, and so it sounds like Wicks has at least been working with him this offseason. And let me share what he had to say, Wicks' personal coach here, I believe, on Instagram. So here's a picture of Dontayvion Wicks. He has a few other pictures as well. And he says this: "My favorite thing as a coach is knowing a guy's about to take over, but nobody knows yet. It's like you're sitting on this big secret. Then boom, the world finds out and they go crazy. And we just sit and laugh because it was just planning. It wasn't random. It wasn't luck. It wasn't the perfect situation. We fought for it for years. Then we do it again. We increase value. This game is about getting the highest value early, then increasing it even more until they have no choice but to meet your demands. We've done it over and over again, but for some reason, everyone comments how lucky or perfect the situation was. So I guess I'm writing all this just so y'all are on notice now. He's next." So if that doesn't get you fired up for Dontayvion Wicks coming into his second season after a pretty productive first year in Green Bay, I don't know what will. But if we look back at Dontayvion Wicks' first season coming in as a rookie, a fifth rounder, he had 39 receptions, 581 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns, and he had a passer rating when targeted of 117.6. Another stat here from Packers Wire, they say on third downs, Wicks hauled in 70% of his 20 targets at 14.1 yards per catch, with 13 of his 14 receptions going for first downs. And I think that when you look at Wicks, the fact that he was a fifth rounder, I, for one, was somewhat surprised as to the insane talent he has. I think when you saw that draft pick happen, when you look at his time in college, he was incredibly productive his junior season. And then the next year, there was a new offense, and he had a huge dip in production. And because of that, that's why the Packers were able to get him all the way back in the fifth round. And I was looking back at some scouting reports before the 2023 draft earlier today, and the biggest issue that scouts had with him, which is why he dropped all the way to the fifth round, was the fact that he did have that huge drop-off in production. There were questions as to why that was. Another big concern mentioned by lots of these draft experts or scouts, whatever you want to call them, he had a big concern with drops. But if you look at last season, he only had 2 drops in his time with Green Bay. And so there's no doubt he was an insanely talented, incredibly gifted physical athlete. There were some question marks as to why things dropped off the way they did. The Packers took a chance on him, and luckily they did. I think down the stretch, he looked like one of the best receivers here in Green Bay. There were some games where you're like, my goodness, this guy can really play. And I think the thing is with this Packers receiver core, which has been talked about time and time again, who is the number one wide receiver? I think the answer is that on any given day, one of these guys can come through. We saw it happen all last season. Jaden Reed having some big days, Romeo Doubs having a big day in the playoffs, Wicks having his days as well. But I just question, because of the amount of talent here, that how high can he go because of the plethora of talent the Packers have on this wide receiver roster. And if we look at Wicks last year, he played in 41.75% of offensive snaps in 2023. So clearly, if that number goes up, his production should also take a jump. If you look at the highest offensive snap count of receivers, it was Romeo Doubs at 77.1%, Jaden Reed at 52.4%. And I think that if Wicks is out there and continues to play as he did last season, I do not see how his offensive snap count won't at least take some kind of jump up. And even though he mainly played out wide last season about 2/3 of the time, he did play about 1/3 of his snaps from the slot. Jaden Reed, of course, was mainly the slot player last year for Green Bay. And so I think the fact the Packers have so many receivers, you wonder who's going to take off next season. I wouldn't be surprised if it's sort of like last year where different days, different guys come through. If the defense, for example, one day tries to shut down Wicks, Jaden Reed may have a big day, Christian Watson, when he's healthy, Romeo Doubs. And I do think we will see an ascent from lots of these young receivers, especially the rookies, Jaden Reed, Dontayvion Wicks, coming into their second year. And I really think the sky is the limit for this Packers offense that was starting to dominate at the back half of last season. And clearly, Wicks' coach sounds very convinced that there's going to be a monster season next year, and it's not going to be luck. It's going to be because of all the preparation that Wicks has put in over this past season and these past couple of years. So I'm excited to see what he can do in year 2. I think we will see a very productive season from him. And when you just look at the way that he plays, his footwork, his ability to separate, last season when he caught the ball, he's like wide open. I don't know if there's any other player on the Packers who is as wide open as Wicks was. And I think that he's going to continue to build that trust with Jordan Love and continue to be a key focal point of this Packers offense. But if you would like more Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below. Turn on the post notifications so you never miss any news. And I'll see you guys next time.